Hello, my friend, and welcome back to another episode of the Everyday Boss podcast. I am so glad you're here, and I'm so glad that Camille has joined me. She is a 3-time best-selling author on soul-driven entrepreneurship, pioneer of the soul professional movement, and a sought-after transformational business strategist and intuitive mentor. She's dedicated to helping soul-led entrepreneurs worldwide design businesses that align with their values and purpose. Her mission is simple: to inspire others to bring their gifts to the world. To learn more about her work, her school, and her upcoming programs, you can check out soulprofessional.com, and we will definitely have that in the show notes for you as well. Camille, thank you so much for being here. I'm super excited for our conversation today.
Yeah, me too. Thank you for having me, Jennifer.
Yeah. So, soul professional, what does that mean? We're just gonna jump right into the heart of it.
Yeah.
What is a soul professional?
So we define a soul professional as someone who lives in a higher vibration, has an alternative approach to business, and is here to help repair the world.
Okay. Oh no, it's juicy, delicious, and a little bit meat.
Yeah. And they're finding soul professionals everywhere. You know, for the longest time, we are really about entrepreneurship, but now I'm starting to see soul professionalism within corporations. I call them like intra entrepreneurs. They're doing their own thing. They're managing departments. They're senior level management in either a small company, a big company. It doesn't matter, but they're still leading with authenticity. They're still caring about humanity and the global good, and they want to make impact.
Yeah. So it's kind of like taking the soulpreneur, the light workerpreneur, the heart-led, heart-centeredpreneurs. These are kind of all like buzzwords that kind of float around, and really digesting it down to, you can be soul-led, but you don't have to just be an entrepreneur. You can take that into really whatever you want to do, whether you're an entrepreneur, an intrapreneur, a standard, corporate employee. That doesn't mean you're not a soul-led professional.
Exactly. Yeah. So we have been making it wider, because as I'm out on stages and talking and doing all these podcasts, I'm realizing that I have an audience that's really that midlife professional going, I don't know, this doesn't make my heart sing. Should I do it? And then we have other people that are going, I kind of like it, but I think there's a better way of doing it. Right. We call it soul-led leadership. How do we lead?
How do we lead? Instead of burning things to the ground and eating ourselves off.
Exactly.
And I mean, not that there's anything wrong with quitting everything and like going and chasing what your soul needs, but like, that's not an easy solution for everyone. Like, that's not where everyone can jump to, like, right off the bat.
Yeah.
Sometimes we have to work through some things and figure it out while also remaining somewhat gainfully employed.
Agreed. Yeah. A lot of times I'm working with exit plans with people, or we're starting side hustles. Because my one-on-one work, I work with these midlife professionals that, have done the thing, got the title, made the money, and then just went, I thought there was something else here. Like I want something more, something bigger to my life. I know I'm meant for something more. And usually I'm helping them create that next chapter. But like you said, they still need the salary, they still need the money. So we're working alongside. So if they get laid off or decide to take a package or, set a date for retirement 2 or 3 years down, we have the foundation that we need. So we do work on those exit plans as well. And I say, now we're building up what we're calling side hustles.
Yeah. Yeah. Have you found that like the shift that's happening in the world around like spirituality and being more heart-centered and like living for a greater purpose, not just like the American dream that we've all been kind of sold and lied to about? Is that shift directly impacting why people are like looking at themselves as soulpreneurs or soul professionals?
Yeah. Now I started to see a change in people in about 2012. That paradigm started to shift. I created this company in 2016, wrote the business plan.
Cutting edge.
Yeah.
You were on the cutting edge, Camille.
And it was actually really hard. It was first the psychics, the light workers, right? It was a lot of that in the beginning, but over time, and especially since COVID, now we're seeing, and that's why we're starting to embrace those midlife professionals that are leaving corporate jobs, or they're in corporate going, is this really where I want to go? And if so, how do I explore what my purpose might even be, or what
Yeah.
that would feel like. So there is definitely a paradigm shift happening. And it started really in COVID, because when people started to be home, they started to realize what they were missing, that they can work on their own terms, right? And when corporations started calling people back, people were like, I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
It
now this year we're
changed.
seeing so many layoffs.
Right.
So my message
Yeah.
is really do something before you lose your job. Like,
Yeah.
do something now.
1,000%. I
Yeah.
think COVID and the shift that we saw happening, because like I was with you, maybe not as early as 2012, but like 2015, 2016, I was like, I feel like I'm wearing a shoe that's a couple sizes too small. And I
Yeah.
wasn't like uncomfortable enough to make major changes, but I was wiggling my toes a little bit, trying to figure out what the heck was so wrong with what was
Yep.
going on.
Yeah.
Ultimately, that led me to a divorce and leaving Texas in 2020. COVID was a piece of that pie, but I was on that journey before that. But like that shift that happened in 2020, it shook up the whole world, right? Like the
Yes.
whole world was on the same page of like,
Yeah.
we lost our sense of community. We lost, the sense of purpose. So many people thought that like purpose and success was like being the corporate 9 to 5, hitting the VP or hitting the CEO, like hitting those levels of
Yeah.
success, the 2.5 kids, minivan, white picket fence American dream that we had been sold. And so that shift happened. There's no undoing that, right? So like now it's a matter of how do we bring that and create spaces and business opportunities and professional opportunities that don't feel like we're wearing a shoe a couple sizes too small.
Yeah. So as we started to notice, I think the world started to catch up around COVID. Like I said,
Yeah.
like I noticed it earlier, and people started to catch up. And I think COVID, we felt a sense of community. It was just different than what we initially thought it was, right? And I think COVID showed us that the whole world was going through the same thing, because we started jumping on Zoom and talking globally. We started to have these global conversations. I mean, my clientele are all over the world. My company represents about 30 countries right now, right?
Wow.
So we're talking to people all over the world that I don't think we would have had COVID not happened, because even though my company had went online in 2018, a lot of people were not familiar with Zoom or really comfortable.
Yeah.
Right. So when Zoom happened, we just catapulted. And part of the soul professional movement, which came out of the whole COVID thing when we rebranded, was about creating community in a different way. So the Soul Professional movement is a gathering and a global call of professionals all over the world that are doing things differently, that want to have the purpose-driven life. So we're trying to find a way of how do we fill the gap of what people are looking for now, right? Because I don't think the Chamber of Commerce's and your BNIs and all the ways we always have been doing it serve everybody. And they certainly don't serve the soul professional. So we're trying to, have those conversations of saying, what do you need? What do you need us to provide? Which started our soul professional business school as well, right? A different way of teaching business. So it is soul led. It's coming from your heart. It's authentic. So I do believe that so much more needs to happen, and communities happening much differently.
Yeah. And I've seen that first, because I've been, a virtual or digital entrepreneur since 2011. And for the longest time, there weren't community spaces. I found a little like blogger niche community that we kind of were like, hey, we're lonely and we're working, like we were already working from home. Some of us were finding a lot of success in blogging. And we just needed people who spoke our language. And then that expanded because we started dabbling in other things and learning other skills. And as technology was catching up with what bloggers and now influencers were doing, all of these opportunities to like kind of take what we had learned and digest it into like a specific niche, or my friends who had helped me like kind of throw together a website that looked better than what I had were now website developers or brand designers or strategists.
Right.
I also moved into strategy and content marketing. And so we pivoted and we kind of expanded. But then when we went from like blogger to like, okay, we're actually experts, we're entrepreneurs now, we're not just bloggers or influencers, there was a lack of space for us. Like there was a lack of community. We worked from home. I was in this tiny little town in Texas where I knew like 5 people and they lived on my street. So like I remember being like, I am so freaking lonely. And I was very blessed to like have done watched an online summit and be introduced to someone who was the first person I'd ever heard of that had a virtual community. And so I was like, I latched onto that so damn quick, because I was desperate for people who were doing business intentionally, right? It was called the Shine the Light Society. It doesn't exist anymore. But it was about doing business differently and coming from a place of like heart-led entrepreneurship, which was like
beautiful,
the origin of what you're doing.
Yep.
Like not your origin story, but
Right.
like an origin element to what you've created. And I think it's so needed, especially now, like we're in this stage of entrepreneurship and business post COVID where things don't feel, we can't go back to the way things were. Like that way of living is gone.
Agreed.
But corporate wants us to, right? Like corporate's trying to force us to do things. Well, my friends are telling me that they're like, they want us to go back to, no more remote. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's awful.
Yeah.
Like, how do we figure out our place and really create this purpose-driven, soul-led life that fits into being a professional or an entrepreneur? How do we start that?
I think it's different for everyone. But it's dovetailing your business or career with your lifestyle, right? When I work with someone, I always say, if you were to win the lottery today, what would you get up and do tomorrow?
Yeah.
Right. So it's in that answer that they're kind of telling me what their dreams are, right? Many would continue working or they'd work on some type of project. There are very few people that'd be like, I'm done, right? After you've done the travel, bought the cars and did all the fun stuff, you're going to have to come back to yourself and be like, okay, now what am I going to do? What is my purpose in this world? Right. And those are some important questions.
Buying fancy cars only, it
that's
lasts
not going to
for
actually
so
make
long.
you very happy. It will make you happy for a little bit. Right. But, and I think people are looking for that, but it's so possible right now. And I think that's the differentiator, right? When we go back to corporate jobs, like, we're not all productive from 9 to 5. Like, that's not the way the world works, right? I'm productive when I'm productive. I do what I need to do. Now, having your own business, you still need structure and boundaries and all of the 100%. Other things, right? We do teach that. It's not that you're an entrepreneur and then overnight you have this freedom and money flowing in. Like it doesn't work like that, right? And there's a lot of ups and downs, and entrepreneurship is not for everybody. It is hard work. It is not for everybody, right? Well, hard work might be a limiting belief, but the point is, it's not that you, have to, sorry,
it's not struggle. It's not like it's not a struggle to work. It can be challenging. It can be pushing yourself, but you're not like, oh, you're not hating every moment of the experience. Yeah,
exactly. And there's so many more rewarding moments, I think. Not everyone loves the sales side of it. The promoting, the marketing. I'm more around client attraction. Like you just be you and you see who comes towards you. And let's make sure that you have a funnel so they want to have conversations and learn more. Like I don't force convert. Like that's just not how I do things, right? I try to serve first, and that's what I teach, right? And it could be so much more of that. But I think going forward, there's going to be this new economy really for the solopreneurs. I think a lot of us are moving to solopreneurship with global markets. So on Zoom in a service industry.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And we're not really taught to live that kind of life, but we can be advisors and mentors and practitioners and coaches and whatever else. And the world's going to need it. And I also feel like we have this gig economy going where corporations don't really want to pay employees anymore. Mm-hmm. Right. So a lot of them are going to their contract. Yeah. Right. And it's going to be the way of the future, and we're going to start hiring each other. And that was part of the Soul Professional movement, is so we can find each other in the world. So if I need a website designer or a brander or a leadership coach or whatever, right? Even healers, I know that if they're identifying as a soul professional, we have the same core values.
Yeah.
I don't have to worry about anything else. If you're identifying that way, I know that you're my person. You're in my
and the core values piece is so key. I think it's a conversation that's been happening a lot more, which I'm so grateful for, because I've been on this soapbox for like 4 years. Wait, when did I leave Texas? 2020. I've been on this soapbox since 2019. That was a big part of how I made the process of making the decisions to walk away from what I had built in Texas was really leaning into my core values. And so many more people are talking about it, and it's becoming something that's built into our businesses, which automatically means that from the foundation, from the ground floor of everything we're creating, we're coming from a place of being soul led, because it's in alignment with what we value and want to create more of in the world. And I think that's so important. And then when you resonate with people around the same values, like you said, if someone identifies as a soul professional, and they've, they're part of your network, or they've gone through, I think you have like business registrations or something like that. Then like, you see the badge, like, oh, they're a soul professional. Like automatically it's a yes, right? It automatically passes the vibe check. And I think that's so key is identifying those language pieces, right? Like heart-led entrepreneur, but digesting it and then like giving it a proper label. Soul professional to me is so much more appealing than heart-centered entrepreneurs, because what does that mean, man? What does it mean?
That word came after we started creating the website and redoing the original website. It actually came at the end of actually doing all the branding and the work, and all of a sudden I feel like the name soul professional was just like given to me from the universe. Like it was just like laid in me, and I was like, oh my gosh, I have it. And I immediately trademarked it. Right?
Good call. Good call.
Like, yeah, because I wanted to be known as a professional. Like that was important to me coming out of the professional world. I still wanted that. And I didn't feel that the heart-centered and the holistic and all of those words were exactly who I was, because it was a little too woo-woo for where I was. And then the business side was a little too driven by ego and sales. And I didn't fit there. So it was kind of blending the two, right? Most of the people that I have are very logically brained, but they're soul led.
Yeah.
And I feel that people are using the word soul more. So that soul professional just kind of came together. And the reason for the movement is to give credibility to that name, right? Credibility to the businesses that are being created that way, because they can be very powerful businesses. Some might be solo entrepreneurs. Some might be multi-million-dollar enterprises. It's all okay. But this is where we can all find each other. And I think that's what's really important.
It's so important and it's so needed. And I think it's so magical what you're creating, because it takes it to the next level, right? Like there's intentionality in how you've built what you've created, and the vision that you're not just carrying and bringing forward with momentum, but like imparting and giving pieces of to the other people in what you're building. And I think that's the most impactful way to build like a legacy that will outlive you by decades and hundreds of years. But it also is the fastest way to have an impact and grow and bring it into existence. And I think it's so beautiful. What does what is inside of the soul professional? Like what is the container of that? So you've got, kind of like, I know you've got a number of different pieces. So tell us about what the different pieces are.
So there's a pledge that we ask people to take. You can actually go to the website soulprofessional.com. There's a pledge there. It talks all about the movement and what we're trying to do and the vision and the purpose. It's all free. So it's a global calling to identify yourself, right? So we know, where are you? And then we want to create a directory from it. But there is a pledge that we signed to be good global citizens, to be collaborative, to work in unison for the greater good, to make us all rise together, right? Just being a good human. That is our first thing. And then we also have networking through the community, monthly networking. We have we pull soul cards for the collective and talk about that once a month. I teach free master classes for entrepreneurship every single month. They're also put on YouTube. So there's a full free library of basic classes for everybody.
Amazing.
And then part of that is the Soul Professional Business School, which we are starting to grow out this summer with other faculty. I've taught everything for the last year when we beta tested it last summer. I will continue to teach the Business Accelerator, which is actually going from concept to market. on your innovative idea and finding your uniqueness and the marketing, the branding. So we're really giving you like a full MBA education while we're doing it, and the mentorship to make it launch. So I will still teach that because that is my favorite. I absolutely love it. I take a small cohort through 3 times a year. We have another one coming up in September. So that's part of the Soul Professional. We will have a directory that we're putting. We had one, we pulled it all down because we're reworking it and deciding what we want to do with it. But we want to have a directory so everyone can find each other. So that is part of it too. And then I'm in discussions with other leaders about what do people actually need? What are the global conversations we need to have? So we're not just another professional organization or networking group that runs like every single other one out there, right? If one person can do it, then that's not our model. We want to be like the next version of what a chamber of commerce would look like, but global for everybody, for all soul professionals.
I think that's such I get goosebumps. Like I have goosebumps right now because I'm just like, like, oh my gosh, what an amazing thing for me who's I'm losing my words, but for someone who's been doing business online for so long, for there to actually be a space and a place to be like, oh yeah, I'm 100% in, and then find my people, right? Like find my people so easily, but also for it to be recognized and like, you know, maybe it won't be a common household name for every single household across the world, but other entrepreneurs will recognize it, other professionals will recognize
That's what we want.
and for it to be like, oh yeah, no, I have the I took the soul professional pledge. Like I've talked to Camille. I know all about what's going on over there, and for it to be like a common thing, a known thing, I think is goosebumps.
Thank you. Yeah. So we're still in discussions of what this is going to look like. So I do meet with leadership and we're looking for ideas. So if any of your listeners have ideas, to please reach out to me, because we're trying to figure out what does everyone need. And we want it to be for the corporate leaders as much as the small entrepreneur.
Yeah.
So, and if they need to be different containers within the brand, that's fine.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that makes sense.
With the Chamber of Commerce is kind of like that anyway. Right. But we want to be so much more than that.
Yeah. And I think it's there. I think now you have the opportunity to practice a little patience while the universe is like, okay, you're ready for the next download, right? Like you're ready for the next level. Your people are here. It's time to take it up a notch. And that is challenging and terrifying and exciting and magical all at the same time. I've been through a few of those myself.
Yeah.
So
go ahead.
So I was just saying, how do people like connect with you on this? Soulprofessional.com, obviously, but like, so take the pledge. What's the next step after they take the pledge?
Once they take the pledge, they become part of our community. So they can come to our networking. They can come to the master classes. There's a Facebook group, although not very active. We're trying to figure out, are we going to keep community that way or not? Because I'm not sure people want to do that anymore. So we're trying to figure out, like, what are we doing with that piece? But just taking the pledge introduces you to the community and the networking. And then you get our newsletter and it'll tell you all the things that are happening. You know, there's a place where you can be part of leadership. If you have any ideas, I would love to talk to anyone who has ideas or lets us know. They can always email me. So that's part of important. And if people are in the corporate world, and I talk on what's called corporate to calling, and they're wondering about what is my next step, they can go to my website and download a free workbook that kind of brings you through like 5 journaling questions about how to find your purpose.
I love that.
Yeah. So it'll kind of think it through. It's free.
So many amazing resources that are just at people's fingertips, and they didn't even know until they listened to this episode. Hooray! So I know one of like your core principles is that yes, business can be done on your own terms, whether you're an entrepreneur or you're a professional, but that it should feel as good as it performs.
Yes.
Let's talk practicality, like practical tips or things we can do to like create those businesses that feel good but also perform. Let's jump in to that a little.
So it's really about showing up authentically and stop pretending to be someone else. Stop pretending to be who you are not. Stop doing all the things that you were told to do because that's how people do it, and do things that feel in flow. Like if you're hunting or grinding or feeling frustrated or overworked, overwhelmed, you are not in flow. There is no part of you in flow. You may love your work when you're with a client, but that's the feeling that you want to feel all the time, right? A lot of times when we're with clients, we're like, I'm killing it. I love this. This is like my person, right? That's how we want to feel every day. We want to feel that way on Monday morning and Friday afternoon, right? It should be in flow. You want to be doing things that feel right. Now, for any business, there are always a few things we don't like to do, right? I hate finance, right? I hate finance. I hired someone else to do that, right? So figure out what you're good at and stay in your zone of genius. And don't try to be like everybody else. Your uniqueness is what sells. And it's your uniqueness that people are trying to get. They want to be you in your energy. That's what they're attracted to. Yeah.
100%. And when you can tap into just, you know what, here I am. I had a moment probably like 2016, 2017, where I was just like, you know what, F it. Just actually, just, you know what, fuck it. Full out. If someone doesn't like me, they're the one that's losing out. And this had nothing to do with business. This is very much a personal moment for me. But I just hit this level of you know what? Fuck it. Absolutely just I don't care anymore. Because I was a chronic people pleaser, still recovering and still, undoing all of that. But I hit this level of just I actually don't care what you think anymore. Because if you choose to not be a part of what I'm doing or creating or being, in my life, that's you on you. That's your loss. I'm still awesome. And and I had this moment of gosh darn it. And then that started to affect my business. I started showing up because it was very much personal. And then it started showing up professionally as I was like, you know what? This is true for me across the board. And then there started being kind of this language in entrepreneurship about letting people opt out of your world. And I love that so much because when you are authentically yourself and you are fully free to express yourself, say the curse words, wear whatever you want, do your hair however you please, and you stop caring about the expectations of the other professionals or the other entrepreneurs or how other people are doing it, we hit this level of freedom where we become super magnetic. Because people want to experience that level of freedom and authenticity and just fuck itness for themselves. They really do. And so it kind of rubs off on people and you start attracting people who need what you're bringing to the table, not just from your level of this is who I am, but also from your expertise and what you are a professional at.
Yeah.
It creates magic.
Absolutely. It's magnetic. I mean, that's what energy is.
Yeah.
Right? We're just feeling each other's energies all through life. No matter who you pick, the doctor, the lawyer, the whatever it is, it's because you felt their energy and it resonated with you, right? When we go to a store, a certain car, whatever it is, it's because the energy feels good. We're just feeling energies all day long. So when it's not feeling good, that means you're in resistance, right? You're not a perfect match. It's not a vibrational match. So we just want to keep that vibration that's authentic to who we are and then find our match.
How do we keep that vibration? What are the opportunities we have to, because I know there's some unlearning that comes with that and being open to it. But how do we practice maintaining that vibration and really tapping into our intuition there?
So for everyone, it's a little different. For me, it's in the time of quietness. I'm really not a meditator, but meditation would work if you're a meditator, right? If you're good at that. For me, I call it stillness because I always say I don't meditate like everyone else meditates, but I love to drive. To me, driving is everything I can get download, stepping away, being in nature, going on a hike. When I can't figure something out, I stop working on it because the answer will come to me when I'm not working on it.
And it'll come faster than if you try to sit there and make it happen.
It's things like that. And knowing in your body, this doesn't feel good. When my clients are in a panic or things aren't working, I'm always okay, let's sit with that feeling and where are we feeling it? Where's it coming from? right? So then we can start to back into, why are we feeling this? Sometimes it's a limiting belief. People don't do it that way. I could never get rich doing this. It's these false beliefs that we're told, and then we start to believe, right? So we have to kind of unravel that. But to stay in the higher vibration is to really let go of the negative energy, the negative people, things that don't feel good anymore, or just saying, I'm not going to do it. For myself, for June and July, I've decided not to create. Like I was like, you're just not going to create. You're going to see what comes to you over these next 2 months. And I have a little notebook and I write things down, but I am not to create anything new or make any big decisions. Like when people are like, well, you want to do that? You want to do that? I'm like, I'm not making decisions for the next 2 months. So I'll put it on my list to think about.
Intentionally kind of done that. Not in any sort of official, like, here are the guidelines for what you're doing. But I decided that 2 things. One, it's summer slowdown. So I'm taking less calls and I'm putting less things on my calendar. But 2, I decided a couple days ago, I want to have a summer of whimsy, and that's what I'm calling it, where I wear the silly, pretty, poofy dresses because I can, and I'm going to put my tiaras on and do my hair up fancy, and I'm going to take myself for treats and go on little adventures, and I'm going to have a summer full of whimsy. And
I love that.
I feel like, especially as like professional women, experts, leaders, we sometimes feel like we have to put on the power suit, and show up as like, we're a proper professional, we're a leader. And we don't get to be just feminine and girly and silly and free the way we're meant to be. So I'm going to be a little more intentional about this summer, and I'm going to find moments of whimsy. I might actually do, like, I don't know, maybe a TikTok series or something and share it. But
I love that.
I really just think it's so important. And I love your, I'm not going to create, right? Like, I need to kind of maybe figure out what the guidelines of this are going to be for the summer. But summer for me is always about, like, what are my opportunities to do things differently? Because there's less pressure for me to perform in the summer. I want to be outside in the sun. I am a solar powered human. I want to soak up as much as I can to survive Canadian winter. It's how I make it through, like, January and February. So I do things differently. And I love your idea of, like, I'm not creating. I'm open to downloads. I'm open to receive, and I'm just expecting the universe to do amazing things. And and then the sky's the limit come August.
Yeah. And that's being in my feminine, which I need to practice. So mine is also about fun and playfulness. Those are the words I've adopted for the summer. Fun, playfulness.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
It's really feminine.
Yeah. Do you like pick a word for the year?
I do.
Yeah. I think I might start picking a word for the year and then, like, a word for each season, because I find, like, every quarter the energy shifts a little bit, and it's like what I picked in January doesn't always hold the same meaning by, like, September, right? Like, things have shifted and things are different. So I might start picking a quarterly word.
That's a great idea.
Yeah,
that's a great idea.
I come away from these podcasts and these conversations I have with people, and I'm like, oh, I need to write that down, because I have, like, my own little mini downloads while we're chatting about what's going on in your world and your business. And I think it's pretty magical how the universe works, and just is like, here you go, drop. It's an idea in the middle of the podcast.
That's good. So that's why we have to listen.
Yes, 100%. So before we wrap up here, what is coming up for the Soul Professional? Like, is there any, I know you mentioned September, you're running another cohort, but, like, is there anything the listeners should, like, jump on and activate this summer to get ready for the fall?
Yeah. Well, I would say the pledge.
Yes.
And I know you called it slow down summer, but I always want to remind people, don't stop prospecting and meeting people and having conversations, because by the time September hits, it's really hard to catch up.
Yeah.
Right. So do some intentional things to keep your business going. It's not, I'm just not working this summer, and I still show up and work.
Yeah. Right? It's not about not doing work. It's maybe about how you're doing the work.
Yes. And the intention behind it, but we still have to have the conversations. So maybe the summer for people is, getting involved in the Soul Professional movement and showing up at our networking or my master classes, and seeing, who they can meet. if it fits.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I do know, I have noticed, I'm doing it for the Fempreneur Collective, where instead of doing weekly networking, we've moved to once a month just for the summer, because I found like there were less people, and sometimes no one would show up for the call. So we're doing it monthly for the summer. But there are a lot of other spaces who pause for the entire summer, or like are also moved to monthly. So there sometimes it almost feels like, oh, I'm so used to talking to like new people 4 or 5 times a week, and then it's like all of my community and networking opportunities like vanish over the summer. So having the sole professional space to jump into a new networking opportunity is a great idea for your summer goals, for sure.
Yeah.
Way to keep the momentum. Amazing. All right. Any final thoughts or things you want to share with our listener before we jump off and wrap up?
Yeah, I would just say, if this resonates with your listeners, to definitely, see what we're all about. And if I can help with clarity in any way, to reach out to me.
Yeah, absolutely. And we will share links to connect with you and where to go take the pledge, which I'm going to do as soon as we stop recording. And we'll share all of that in the show notes and make it easy for people to connect with you that way as well.
Excellent. Thank you so much for today.
Thanks, Camille. I'm so glad you were able to join me, and thank you for listening so much. We so much appreciate you. Of course, now is the time where I remind you to go share, follow, connect with Camille, connect with the Fempreneur Collective, and then go build your empire.